Food processing facility sanitation is an integral part of good manufacturing practices. Effective sanitation aids in ensuring the wholesomeness, safety, and quality of shell eggs. The negative impacts on food safety and egg quality are a result of microbial growth. Research has shown that ineffective cleaning and sanitation practices or programs can lead to reduced quality duration or potential product contamination. Residual microorganisms can lead to egg spoilage or foodborne illness. Most of this training series will focus on the United States Department of Agriculture Agricultural Marketing Service pre-operational sanitation inspection expectations. However, remember that the Food and Drug Administration has oversight of consumer shell eggs in the United States as stated in 21 CFR 117. Additionally, customers, accrediting organizations such as Safe Quality Food, British Retail Consortium Global Standard, and others, as well as state and local regulatory agencies, may have additional facility sanitation expectations that can impact your facility. AMS sanitation requirements are meant to protect the integrity of the USDA grade mark by requiring additional sanitation expectations at facilities that utilize AMS voluntary grading services. To meet these goals, AMS inspectors will assess for voluntary grading program requirements during the pre-operational sanitation inspection and throughout processing operations by utilizing organoleptic inspection assessments. While AMS may review microbial test results as part of certain export programs, AMS does not conduct nor require swabbing or biological testing during routine sanitation assessments. So what is organoleptic inspection? Organoleptic inspection assessments include sight, smell, and touch. However, microbial growth will not always be seen, smelled, or felt.
Critical areas are defined as equipment with potential surface contact with eggs or come in contact with wash water or air blown to dry the eggs. Non-critical areas are defined as areas that are not likely to imminently affect product quality. Non-critical does not mean it is not important. Non-critical, unsatisfactory conditions should be addressed after the processing line has been started unless unable to safely do so during processing. Egg processing facilities shall be thoroughly cleaned at the end of each operating day. The term reasonably clean is applied during the egg processing shift to indicate that equipment and processing areas are maintained with minimum egg meat accumulation. More explanation of these terms is presented in the introduction module. In this module, examples will be used to illustrate the unsatisfactory and satisfactory condition of various components associated with the farm belt. While the farm belt is not considered critical during pre-operational sanitation inspection, it is important to remember that egregious conditions or reoccurring unsatisfactory conditions of a non-critical element can become critical. Beginning January 2020, all portions of the farm belt within the egg processing facility must be available and accessible for assessment during pre-operational sanitation inspection. The farm belt within the egg processing facility must be clean each day prior to processing. The design of farm belts to bring eggs into the facility can be simple or complex. The relatively simple and straightforward farm belt enter the facility progressing directly to the processing line. Complex farm belts may encompass multiple belts of varying length that enter the facility separately before joining at the accumulator. Understanding the nuances of general design will assist in both successful cleaning and inspection of farm belts. Farm belts can be comprised of various materials, including plastics, metal, and rubber. These materials may be shaped as rods, grid, or solid sheets. Each type of material presents unique challenges for cleaning. Facility management should determine the appropriate method to clean the respective belting material. More information on accumulator sanitation and expectations is available in the accumulator training module. AMS personnel must be able to assess farm belts in a safe manner. Temporary elevated platforms used in sanitation assessments should be designed to safely support personnel by reducing the risk of falling and preventing unstable conditions. Common ladders and stools not specifically designed for safety in the food processing environment should not be used for assessment. Facilities with overhead belting should work with AMS local supervisors to come up with a safe assessment method for their particular system, which could include utilizing cameras, video, or other assessment methods. The farm belt will fall under AMS sanitation requirements from the point it enters the facility. Curtains and mechanical components present as the farm belt enters the processing facility need to be well maintained and kept in a clean condition. Areas that are used to store carts, chemicals, or other processing equipment are considered to be part of the processing facility. Farm belts which traverse through these areas must be clean each day. Also, non-solid barriers such as ropes, chains, or painted lines are not sufficient to delineate farm and processing areas. If egg processors or inspectors have questions regarding which portions of a farm belt are covered under pre-operational sanitation inspection, the local AMS supervisor should be consulted. The farm belt should be cleaned and assessed from all sides. This would include the frame, belt, and guards, as well as any drip pans, drive trains, legs, or mounts used to suspend the farm belt. In this example, one side of the farm belt is clean and satisfactory. Walking around to the other side and viewing the same section of the belt shows unsatisfactory conditions. It is less than ideal to utilize the space under the farm belt as storage. When items are stored under the farm belts, steps must be taken to mitigate debris from soiling stored items and flooring. Appropriate mitigation may include the use of metal pans or other barriers. However, these barriers must be maintained in a clean condition as we see here. Large amounts of egg, shells, and organic matter left in the pans overnight or before the next day's processing would be an unsatisfactory finding. This could lead to an unsatisfactory critical finding if allowed to persist. Paper barriers would also be suitable to mitigate debris or soiling underneath the farm belt. Similar to other materials, paper should be cleaned prior to the start of processing. This is a satisfactory, non-critical finding for paper under a farm belt. Copious amounts of soiling would be unsatisfactory, non-critical. If the surface appears to have not been cleaned, it can be raised to critical and asked to be corrected before processing begins. Farm belts may be designed in a manner that makes assessment challenging. Here we see a stacked system with approximately 7 incoming farm belts that could be difficult to assess. USDA personnel should work with plant management and their supervisors to determine acceptable assessment methods. New construction design should allow for easy assessment of the farm belt within the processing facility. USDA supervisors can be contacted with any questions. Not all farm belts will be new in appearance. The expectation is simply that they remain free of excess debris and organic material. This farm belt has experienced wear and discoloration, but is still satisfactory for pre-operational sanitation standards. This example shows a well-worn polymer farm belt. While the discoloration would not be cause for unsatisfactory findings, the large amount of organic matter under the eggs and along the edge of the belt would be cause for an unsatisfactory finding on a non-critical area. When assessing the underside of the farm belt, be sure to evaluate tensioners, crossbars, braces, feet, gears, and drive belts. The buildup of organic material on the tensioner in the front right would be an unsatisfactory, non-critical finding. It is understood that farm belts may have small amounts of dust or debris. This would not be cause for an unsatisfactory finding. The current belt is an example of a satisfactory, non-critical finding. Here we see a rod-style farm belt that has residual egg meat on the rods and structural components. This would be an unsatisfactory, non-critical finding during pre-operational inspection. Curtains associated with farm belts should also be cleaned. Curtains, such as this one, that are worn or have buildup are unsatisfactory and non-critical. This curtain should either be cleaned or replaced. Farm belts that have buildup of dust, dander, and other materials from the houses are unsatisfactory. Here we see rods that have organic buildup flaking from their surface. This is an unsatisfactory finding in a non-critical area. The portion of the farm belt in this area of the facility should be more thoroughly cleaned during the next cleaning and sanitation cycle. Here we see another unsatisfactory finding due to the residual egg meat on the portion of farm belt present in the processing facility. Not only can we see egg meat on the belt surface, we also see egg meat accumulation on the Teflon transition plate before the transfer plate. This would be unsatisfactory, non-critical. Any farm belt mechanical structures within the processing facility must also remain in a clean condition. The mechanical unit on the left is an example of a satisfactory, non-critical finding. The unit on the right has buildup and debris which would lead to an unsatisfactory, non-critical finding. Tarnished, non-pitted surfaces are not considered unsatisfactory during pre-operational sanitation inspection. This is another example of a polymer farm belt that has been satisfactorily cleaned and is readily accessible for the portion within the processing facility. While the farm belt is considered non-critical during pre-operational sanitation inspection, it is important for the transport of eggs to the processing line. When unsatisfactory findings occur, extra care should be taken during the subsequent cleaning shift to ensure the portion within the processing facility is satisfactory for the next day's pre-operational assessment. Continued unsatisfactory findings or egregious conditions could elevate findings to critical, preventing the start of the processing line.